Mike Day, estate agency legend, been in the industry over 45 years, celebrating your birthday in the industry this December 2020. What should estate agents have learned from COVID going forward? Talk to me.
A lot. I think if you go back to March, when the whole industry was locked down and the country was locked down, suddenly we were faced with a complete change that nobody had ever faced before. We didn't know what was happening. I spent a lot of time running group sessions on Zoom. Who had heard of Zoom before March? I mean, suddenly their share price looked quite attractive. And suddenly we were having these peer-to-peer sort of discussions about what was going on. And we saw things that were already starting to happen accelerate. So, for example, virtual viewings became part of a process simply because at the time you couldn't actually do a physical viewing. We came out of lockdown relatively quickly, within a couple of months. By the end of May, basically the business, with some protocols in place, was able to operate again. Good agents, the really forward-looking agents.
Because you mentor and coach an awful lot of agents in the country. What are the good ones learnt from it?
Well, they had a plan. They reviewed every line of their business. They reviewed every line of their P&L account, and they looked at I talk about the 7 Ps, not the standard 7 Ps of marketing, but the baseline 4 Ps of people, premises, portals and prop tech, and they looked at those 4. That in turn led to their proposition and productivity, which in turn led to profitability, if you think of it as a pyramid. The good ones undertook that review, brought in the changes they needed to, remote working, so that maybe had an impact on premises. Maybe they didn't need as much space. They didn't necessarily get rid of their premises, but maybe they could mitigate their costs and whatever with premises. Prop tech, start using joined up prop tech to do some of the heavy lifting to actually make people more productive. Portals, review their expenditure. And of course we saw the no to right move campaign and whatever, but very few agents saw it through and actually made a change. And that's because we came out of lockdown fairly quickly. And a lot of agents simply reverted to where they were. I think that was a mistake. The better clients of mine saw some of those changes through. I have a client down in Horsham, very successful agency, introduced virtual viewings on their sales and lettings business. It is now a standard part of their operation. So the first viewing, the wide neck of the funnel, is a virtual appointment. But it's an accompanied virtual appointment. They don't just send the video to somebody, they book an appointment for you to come and see us, if you like, on Zoom.
Yes.
And I walk you through the property, same way as I would do if I was there. But I'm saving all that time and effort. I'm still talking to you, so I'm getting all the feedback, and therefore I'm building that relationship. And only once you've come through that stage do you move through to a physical viewing. What a productivity gain.
So how's their business, and what have they saved staff member wise then?
Well, it was a successful business already, but I can tell you, without giving any secrets away, that their sales pipeline, as we sit here today, a one office firm, is somewhere approaching £600,000. They are heading for their best ever year, and they are doing it with 2 full-time heads less than they were doing it before, because they've had the discipline of deciding that they're going to do something and seeing it through. They've improved it and refined it as they've gone along, but so many firms started it a bit haphazard and just didn't see it through. They have built it in to a new way of operating.
And can you bring that back to the fact is that they looked at their business, they looked at all the Ps and put a plan in place to sort it out, whilst you think a lot of other agents, because of the nature of the type of people that are attracted to a estate agency, were a bit more haphazard and went back to the old school?
And it's not just estate agency. I mean, suddenly, because of the government intervention with the stamp duty holiday, suddenly the inquiry levels and everything went up. So people are busy. So they're now too busy to actually take those moves. They didn't use the particular sort of downtime period to actually replan their businesses. I pivoted with my own business. So I do a lot of training, as you know, in the industry. And of course, all of that training now is online. So I've broken my sort of half-day, one-day courses into bite-sized pieces and deliver them all online. That's opened up actually a new market for me, because before people had to physically travel to a hotel or something in London. Now I can deal with somebody in Newcastle or Plymouth at the same cost or whatever as I can do somebody in London. So I had to go through the same process, and all good businesses have learnt to review their processes and pivot where they needed to pivot. But it's all about productivity. We all know that revenue is vanity, bottom line is sanity, and ultimately cash is king. So bringing the cash through. So these sales pipelines that are enormous at the moment, if you haven't got the effort going into pulling those sales pipelines through, it's not going to do you any good. And again, my client down there in Horsham, they have a dedicated sales progression team to work on that. They work with a panel of local solicitors that they have a relationship with. They also get sale ready when they put a property on the market. A lot of talk of legal ready. It's not necessarily legal ready, but it's transaction ready. So the lawyer gets instructed when the house goes on the market. They start to prepare all of the fixtures and fittings, TA6 and all the other preparation. So by the time they introduce a buyer, they're already a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks ahead of the game. That is paying off now in transaction times.
Thank you for your time today.
Cheers.